Hey y'all, and welcome to PolitiBrawl. My name is Brian, and Stephen Miller gives a complete dressing down to this know-nothing CNN reporter who has been clutching her pearls over Trump deporting terrorists. Let's dive in.
Hold on. It's a very important question. You said the way our system works is the President of the United States commands the armed forces of the country, commands the foreign policy of the country, and that's subject to district court review. That is fundamentally untrue.
I never said that, Stephen. I did not say.
That has never been true.
This was not a military operation.
A district court judge can no more enjoin the expulsion of foreign terrorists to foreign soil that he can direct the movement of Air Force One, that he can direct the movement of an aircraft carrier, that he can direct Marco Rubio to engage in diplomacy in a country or not.
Do you think the Supreme Court has any say over this or not? Does the Supreme Court of the United States have any say over the things that you were just outlining right here?
I believe what the Supreme Court will say is what I just said, which is that the president's conduct here is not subject to judicial review.
Okay, but you are acknowledging that they do, in fact, have a say here, even though you think they may agree with you.
What we are expecting is the Supreme Court to say what has always been the case, which is when the president is using his powers as commander-in-chief, those determinations are not subject to judicial review. In other words, the president's designation of Trinidad as a foreign terrorist organization and as an alien enemy are part of his inherent plenary authority. There is no way.
At what point in the system, Stephen,
how are you going to expel? Hold on. How are you going to expel illegal alien invaders from our country who are raping little girls, who are murdering little girls, if each and every deportation has to be adjudicated in a district court judge? That means you have no country, it means you have no sovereignty, it means you have no future. It is fundamentally incompatible to have a country and have individual expulsions adjudicated by a single district court judge.
I'm just trying to figure out at what point in the system do you, because what does the Trump administration believe? Because we do have separation of powers in this country. I hear what you're saying.
Yes,
you're saying
separation
the district
of powers.
Court does not
this is the judiciary interfering
Stephen,
in the executive function. That is the separation of powers. That is the separation of powers.
Did you ignore the judge's order here because you thought you could?
So the judge's order and the actions taken by the Departments of Defense, Justice, and Homeland Security are not in conflict. And the Department of Justice has been clear that they are not in conflict. But
so you think that you did go along with the order that the judge put out? You do not think that the Trump administration defied this order?
As the Justice Department said, there is no conflict between the judge's order and the actions taken by the departments I just listed. But I'm making a deeper and more fundamental point.
Yeah.
The district court
if you don't have to follow it, why didn't you?
The district court has no ability to in any way restrain the president's authorities under the Alien Enemies Act or his ability to conduct the foreign affairs of the United States. Let me paint a picture for you. President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio had engaged in intensive diplomacy to obtain a bilateral security agreement with the nation of El Salvador. If a district court judge can enjoin that bilateral security agreement, then we do not have a democracy.
Stephen, you've made your argument.
We do not have a foreign policy.
We've heard you say this. Did you ignore, did the administration ignore the order from the district judge? It's a simple question.
I've answered it. I've answered it because the Department of Justice has made a filing in the court. But let me make another point. The judge, in this case, put the lives of every single person on those aircraft at risk. Did he know how much fuel was in those planes? Did he know the flight conditions? Did he know the weather conditions? Did he know how many crew hours? Did he know the need for crew rest? Did he know any of that? No. This judge violated the law. He violated the Constitution.
He
defied the system of government that we have in this country.
Because that does seem to be what you're arguing.
These same district court judges didn't do a damn thing to stop Joe Biden from flooding this nation with millions of illegal aliens. These district court judges didn't issue any injunctions to save the lives of Jocelyn Hungary or Laken Riley or anyone else.
The federal courts. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that what you said, there's a separation of powers. The judiciary exercises judgment and relief.
I don't speak for the White House. You are here to speak
I will do.
You're here to speak for the White House.
I
just want you to answer that one simple question.
I am. Ready? Here we go. Under a proper reading of the Constitution, district court judges provide relief to individual plaintiffs seeking relief. District court judges do not have the authority, as a general matter, to enjoin the functioning of the executive branch. but their authority is at its lowest point when the president is exercising his powers as commander-in-chief. And I asked you a question, you never answered it. Can a judge enjoin troop movements overseas? Can a district court judge enjoin troop movements overseas?
Stephen,
yes or no?
I am not going to get into the
just say no, and then you'll know that I'm right.
This is a
just
separate
say no,
question,
and you'll know that
Stephen.
I'm right.
Okay, we're not talking about other
Because
troops
the
overseas.
president,
I need to ask you about something else.
The
that's
president
important.
issued a proclamation delineating in detail how the Venezuelan regime sent this gang, this terrorist organization, to our shores. And by the way, and I love being here, but all the outrage that we are seeing from the Democrat Party and from the corporate media.
And I'll finish that thought right there. All the outrage that we have been seeing from places like CNN, from places like the Washington Post, or the Atlantic, or pretty much any liberal publication that's based on either of our American coastline. Their outrage is all placed in the fact that Donald Trump has dared to use an old law, an old and still on the books law from 1798, calling it the Alien Enemies Act, one of the last of the 4 Alien and Sedition Acts. Sorry, not one of the last of the 4, the last of the 4 laws that are still on the books. And so, by definition, Donald Trump, if he has found that there are individuals who are acting on behalf of foreign nations or have direct ties to foreign nations and are not here legally, he can, by definition, use this law to deport them. Now, from a legal perspective, and I don't like arguing from this, but I do understand that without legal precedent, let's be honest, a nation without laws is not a nation at all. And so, Donald Trump is using the law by definition, but there's also this concept known as judicial review. And so, the judiciary, even at the district level, even the swamp creature Washingtonian, because Judge Boasberg has grown up in the Washington, D.C., not area, but in D.C. proper, although let's be honest, if you ask him what Mambo sauce is, he probably couldn't answer you. That's when you know you're dealing with the real Washingtonian right there. And so this dude probably isn't ingrained in the traditional D.C. culture. He's in the old, good old-fashioned swamp culture. And so he hates the very idea that Donald Trump can and has legal authority to deport people that are acting not only against the interests of the United States, but have also done so to harm American citizens. Remember, non-citizens only have a certain amount of rights and don't have all of them guaranteed to them by the Constitution. And since this law is still on the books, I think that this is a legal move. But there is the part of me that does love the legal procedure, that wants to see this play out. And so this is what Boasberg ultimately ended up doing. There was a lawsuit that ended up coming to his desk from the ACLU, basically saying that anyone who is being deported underneath this law should have a continuance of at least 14 days as an official review can be put in place. And so this is what Boasberg did. The lawsuit, brought on behalf of 5 named Venezuelan immigrants, illegal Tren de Agua members, might I add, was provisionally turned into a class action, meaning it serves as a block on deportation of all non-citizens in U.S. custody who are subject to Trump's proclamation invoking the law. And this is a direct quote from Boasberg. Any plane containing these folks that is going to take off or is in the air needs to be returned to the United States, however that is accomplished, Boasberg announced. Make sure it's complied with immediately. Except this wasn't in writing, which is another major problem. So already you have the mainstream media clutching their pearls about an issue of which they don't fully understand. Then you have a judge at the 11th minute of the 11th hour, before the plane had finally crossed into international waters, says out of the blue, hey, I have a verbal order, which I think carries about as much weight as me screaming into the wind. But ultimately, a verbal order is supposed to be treated with the same sort of respect. And that's nonsense. This needs to be in writing. This also goes in conjunction with a major problem that we've been having with Joe Biden's auto pen. There's good evidence to suggest that Joe Biden had no idea what he was signing when he gave someone else the ability to sign his own name. I think that creates a couple of major legal problems. After all, if I forget to dot an I or cross a T in my name on a legal document, there's going to be some questions later on. It might be considered null and void. And I consider these two issues linked. If there's no written procedure, if this was done so late that this judge is now screaming that this plane has to turn around with close to 300 illegal migrants with ties to Tren de Agua, are you kidding me? This isn't justice. This is a power grab. And I get part of the logic why. There is a logical strain that says maybe we need to give this law more of a review and just make sure this is indeed legal. However, this law has still been on the books. Of the 4 Alien and Sedition Acts that were passed in 1798, 3 of them have been repealed in some form or fashion. Only 1 remains, and it technically still has some ties to to a Supreme Court case. Korematsu, I believe, was the name. Y'all might have to correct me down in the comments, but it was the one where we detained and put into internment camps Japanese, German, and Italian Americans during World War II. That was sort of a nasty stain on American history there, but this isn't the same sort of stain. This is an organization with direct ties to the literal dictator Maduro, who is continuing to ruin Venezuela, which should be a crown jewel in the Western Hemisphere, but because of socialistic nonsense, it will never be the nation that it deserves to be until they overthrow Maduro, who is holding on to power, arguably illegally, given what he has done in previous elections. But ultimately, the question that we need to ask ourselves is, should we be clutching our pearls over a president legally deporting illegal migrants who have committed crimes here in the United States? Or at the very least, can we at least say that, hey, there is a process that needs to be talked about? And neither of those came up in any real shape or form on this CNN interview. Stephen Miller was trying to hone in this point, and instead, this hostess had no idea how to get around this problem and kept on asking about, well, did Donald Trump defy a federal order? When instead the question is this federal order even legal? That's the question that needs to be asked here. And Stephen Miller did a fantastic job. And bless her heart, this poor liberal host tried her best, but I don't think she's cut out for this sort of job. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on PolitiBrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. And until then, y'all have a good one.